Nobody wants to talk about resumes. I get it, right? But what you do want to talk about is finding a job. In fact, finding a great job and quickly. Not only that, but you'd love to get an interview when you submit your resume. Wouldn't that be nice? Today, we're talking about two key tools, the best tools that I recommend that you'll learn how to use today that will help you be able to get interviews faster. You'll actually start to get responses by the fact that your resume is catching people's attention. So let's start off. What is a resume for in the first place? Let's just cut to the chase, right? It has one purpose. Its one purpose is solely to get you an interview. That's it. Now, can you use it for other features after that? Absolutely. As a tip, you can use it as a guide during the interview so that you can have something to refer to. But also, that resume is a key in setting up a value for you. It's a value for when you get a job offer, because the first time that a company hears about you is probably with the job application, which usually includes what? Your resume. So instead of going check mark, the resume's done, think about it differently. Man, this document is one of the most important things in my life because I'm going to get an interview. And when I get an interview, what that hiring company is thinking of me. This is absolutely critical, thinking about your resume in different light, okay? No, we don't like talking about it. No, it's a dirty word out there, right? I get it. But the fact is, your resume is just absolutely important to your success. And if you have a current job and you maybe been working there a few months, a few years, you might become complacent with that resume. So be careful. You don't want that resume getting dusty. You don't want it getting dirty. And of all things, you don't want to lose it or misplace it. Because one of the worst things that could happen to you is something that happened to me years ago. You could suffer something called a RIF, an RIF, a reduction in force. And if you do that, then you have basically been told our company no longer needs you. There's an issue with the economy, or we're downsizing, or we're closing the doors. Besides the fact that your heart sinks into the bottom of your chest and you're in a battle stations mode emotionally, you now have no logical thought process, right? It's more emotional based, is what I should say. And when you get into that battle stations mode after a mention of a job loss or even reduced hours, you don't always think clearly. I know I didn't, despite the fact that I'm an engineer and that I'm a professional, that I have a career coaching company. Hey, we all can become emotional at times. So with that said, keep track of where your resume is, because if you don't know where it is, the two tools I'm going to share with you very briefly are not going to help you at all, because it's hard to do it with a blank sheet of paper, right? But you can, but it's a lot easier to edit than it is to create. So I highly recommend you keep in touch with your resume. Jot yourself down a note. My resume is currently at. The last time I updated my resume was. Now, let's get into those key tools. Number one, the first key tool that you want to use for your resume, it's actually one of the best things out there, is by creating content around something called SMART. And it's an acronym, but we're going to use it in a special way. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. You see, most resumes that have come across my desk have been job-oriented and task-oriented. So what I mean by that is, yes, you and I have jobs, right? Where you're working now, where you've worked before. Okay, no problem. But our goal is not to explain to a future hiring company that has an open position what the human resources manual is for your job or for my job. That's not our goal. If it was, then we could open up any job posting in the world, copy and paste the human resources advertisement and send it out and go, look, I want to get hired because I matched this job. This is what I want. What we're trying to do is show the hiring company our value. They need to know your value. And if you want to think about it differently, if two people were identical and applied for jobs just with different names, right? Let's say twins. They had the same schooling, the same education, the same background, maybe even were involved in the same after-school activities. The only difference is the name. Now, what are you going to do with that? Hiring company gets a resume in. They look identical. The name's different. Well, it's either going to be a random, I'm going to pick one of these two, or it's neither one of these match any of the criteria. Move on. That might sound harsh, but what I'm trying to get at is this. We're not trying to post content on a resume that is job and task specific only. We're trying to do it, remember, that SMART way. Specific, measurable, attainable, or realistic and time-based. So what does that mean? If you just said worked with a team in sales operations, that's true. You might have done that. Worked in the warehouse moving heavy packaging. True things, okay? Or warehouse forklift operator. Those are tasks, those are activities that you've done, but anybody could do those things. What makes you specific? What makes the things that you've done specific are the values that you've brought when you work there. In other words, why were you hired? Why specifically were you hired? What do you do differently than everybody else in your company? Think about it that way. To go back to that specific, that SMART, what you want to do is look at the forklift. Operated, maybe maintained a 7,000-pound forklift for X years. See what you've done there? You've defined specifically about the tool or the vehicle that you're using, a specific forklift capacity and a specific amount of time, right? That gives them an idea of how much experience you have driving this forklift, for example. If you worked in sales, like I mentioned earlier, worked with the sales team and sold, software licenses for our coaching program. Okay, great. But that doesn't meet the SMART criteria, right? The closest thing you had to specific was sales team and that you sold something. Throw some numbers in there. That's what the S is for specific. Team lead of 7 in our sales department, averaging $8,000 in sales per month, per week, per year, whatever it is. Pick the numbers, right? You work in customer service, and maybe your job is not to sell things. You're like, Coach Craig, I can't do this specific SMART stuff because I work in customer service. Well, try this no matter where you work, no matter what you do or did for your resume. You wouldn't have been hired and you wouldn't have been paid if you weren't providing value to the company. Think about a performance review, the things that you've achieved. Well, I sat in my chair and did my work. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the specific things that you achieved. How many reports have you filed? How many customers have you served? How many sales have you accomplished? So, what roles have you played a key function would be a great one, right? You can talk about your team on your resume, but it dilutes you. Our goal for SMART is to talk specifically about you. What specifically measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based accomplishments you've had. When you start to see these things on your resume, in fact, look at your resume now. I told you need to have it, right? You need to find it. Look down to the job descriptions, the task area where you've worked before. Right now, be honest with yourself, and I'd love to see it in the comments below, all right? How many specific, measurable, SMART things do you have right now? The current resume versus the future resume. That actually takes me into tool number 2 here, and it's WIIFM. WIIFM. So we're going to kind of combine the SMART and the WIIFM. Now, if you've heard of WIIFM, what's in it for me? You're going to go, okay, I'm going to change the channel here. Hold on a minute. I told you, we're not going to use WIIFM for your resume in the same way that everybody else would use the tool. I use it in a backwards way. Normally, when we talk about WIIFM, we say, what's in it for me, right? That's where we go wrong with resumes. Take your resume, put it down on the desk in front of you, and then turn it 180 degrees. Now, leave the room and then come back. Stand in front of your resume. And when you do, you are coming in as the hiring company representative, the human resources professional, the recruiter, the hiring manager, maybe the working line manager you could potentially work for. You are no longer in charge of that resume. You are going to look at that resume and you're going to give it 3 seconds. Sounds crazy. But that resume only gets scanned or skimmed by humans for about 3 seconds once it gets in front of them for the first pass. Looking at that resume, WIIFM, what's in it for me, is now in the view of the hiring company. Is your resume organized? Is there good content? Is it structured well? How about white space? The list goes on, but in the end, think of your resume as a piece of artwork, right? Sounds like I'm crazy, but trust me, this is very important. And that's why I'm giving you these 2 tools, the SMART and the WIIFM. If you can use the SMART goals, they tie into what's in it for me. When someone skims or scans a resume, numbers pop out. It's so easy for the human mind just to see them and get drawn, get attracted to them. If you have a clean format, a clean structure, that's going to start to answer the question in the hiring company's mind, what's in it for me? What's in it for us if we were to hire you? Do those 2 things, SMART and WIIFM. Remember those forever, and you'll be in much better shape. I'm Career Coach Craig. I'm honored to be speaking with you today. Thank you for taking the time to go through this video. Please subscribe. And if you know somebody, a family friend, a work colleague that's going through some hard times, please turn them on to the show if you know somebody struggling. Career Recovery with Coach Craig. Remember, you can go to my website, craigancel.com. That's CRAIGANCEL.com. You could set up a career recovery coaching breakthrough call or even submit your resume for a courtesy review. I'd be honored that you did. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.